Welcome to Tools for Decision Making and Data Management. My name is Tyler Lestagi. I'm with the University of Dayton Research Institute. So we have two speakers here in this session. First up is Clifford Bridges. Cliff is formally trained in theoretical mathematics and has experience in education, software development, and data science. He has been working for IDA since 2020 and often uses his math and data science skills to support sponsors' needs for easy-to-use analytic capabilities. Prior to starting at IDA, Cliff co-founded a startup company in the fashion technology space and served as Chief Information Officer for that company. So, with that, turned over to Cliff.
Hello, everyone. Let's get this turned on, I think. Ooh, we're already up. Nope, we're not up. Nope, there we go. And I can click through. Where is the clicker? Oh, got it. Fantastic. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Cliff. I guess I should talk here so Zoom can hear me. Hi, everyone. My name is Cliff Bridges. I, as was mentioned, am a research staff member here at IDA. I will be talking today about user-friendly decision tools. So first, I want to lay some guidelines for participation in this session. This will be less technical than what was promised in the program. Sorry about that. Changes happen. So we still will talk about Streamlit and Python, so hopefully you won't be too disappointed. Second is that it's a quick talk. Hopefully you can look afterwards at the slides. You can download them. They should be on the repo somewhere after the talk. There are notes in them and references in them that are not on the slides for ease of visualization in the slides. And third, this is going to be an interactive talk. So y'all are going to do some talking too. All right. And we'll start right now by saying, all right, turn to a neighbor, say hello, say, hi, my name is, whatever your name is, give your pronouns, he, him, whatever that is for you, say hello. If you're in Zoom land, same for you. Just type it into the chat and maybe respond to someone, say hello. All right, go for it. All right, awesome. If you said hello to someone that you already knew, then try again. It looks like many of you didn't, so good. All right, thank you. All right, so first, before I dive deeper into these slides, I'll mention what decision tools are and who the users are. So by decision tools, I mean for the sake of this talk, I mean any visualization of analysis whose scope of decisions extend beyond the analysis itself. So what I mean by that is I'm not just saying, is the analysis good? Did it take in all the extraneous factors? I mean, what will this analysis be used for? And can I use this analysis again after some other problem arises and I need some new challenge? I meet some new challenge that I wasn't expecting when I performed this analysis. How outside of itself can it live and survive? That analysis tool might be a PowerPoint like we're talking about here, static slides. They might be a dashboard that lives on some server that you log into. It might be an app that you build for your sponsor and they download and you push updates to, whatever that is. Anything that lives outside of itself, that will live outside of itself and outside of your talk track in particular. And then who are the users? Well, anyone using that app, right? That might be the sponsor itself, which is most likely, but it also might be analysts that work on the sponsor's team that weren't in the briefing in which you gave that talk, right? They're new to the team. They haven't seen this tool before. It could be that the sponsor has just changed over and you have a new sponsor that needs to learn about how to use the tool that you haven't briefed them on, right? So we want tools to be able to live outside of themselves in that way for these users. Many of us, even I think there's some undergrads in the audience that maybe the sponsor is a manager at a job. Whatever that is for you, hold on to that idea. All right. The goal for this talk is that you all leave having thought about if you can use more user empowering tools for your users, and if so, how would you build those tools? All right, that's the goal. All right, So, a couple of months ago, maybe a few months ago now, I attended a professional development workshop in which I learned the term trusted advisor, and I really like that term. My background in education, I really like advisorship. That means something to me. If you want notes on the workshop I took, it's again in the slides, download them later. But the idea of a trusted advisor is that it's not a role you sign up for. It's not a checkbox you put on your resume. It's really a series of behaviors. It's how you act with that advisor or with that sponsor. For me, I'm always going to think about sponsors because that's the world I live in. If it's manager for you, if it's analyst for you, whoever that is that's going to be using the tools that you produce, go ahead and substitute that in here. So what does a trusted advisor do? What behaviors do they act on? They build long-term relationships with sponsors through regular communication. What do I mean by that? Of course, everyone always is regularly communicating with their sponsor. I mean something a little beyond just sponsor asked, hey, I have problem X, please solve this for me. That's useful, and that's a thing, and that happens, and that's okay. That's not what I'm talking about here. Here I'm talking about the sponsor saying, hey, I have problem X, and you saying, got it, fantastic. I understand what you're saying to be this. Is that what you're saying? Great. I'm going to use method A to solve problem X. I'll get back to you in the interim with some interim results. You get back to them later and say, okay, great, this is my solution. Is this what still works for you? Has problem X changed for you? Right? Maybe there's some new nuance that's arrived out in the sponsor's world. Who knows? We want to ensure that regular communication kind of addresses that so that your production of a tool is adaptive to whatever their changing needs are. What that long-term communication relationship builds is the ability to help the sponsor ask the right questions and not just get right answers. We're all very good at giving right answers. That's great. What if the sponsor isn't asking the right questions, right? If the sponsor comes at you with problem X and says, hey, great, I have problem X, and you give them the right answer, that's fantastic. And then they come back later and say, wait, okay, great, I have problem Y now. And you, as the SME, as the analyst, it might be up to you to say, oh, wait, problem X and Y, they share this similarity, and it looks like there might be the same root cause. Should we be addressing the root cause along with problem Y? Should we be motivating that conversation? I would suggest yes, that would be helpful if we were doing that. All right, that put us in the realm of trusted advisor, rather. And when we do that, we can help sponsors independently reach defensible conclusions. Right? That's not saying putting ourselves out of work, that we aren't drawing conclusions. That's saying sometimes they're going to be independent from us, right? Sometimes they're going to be in a meeting with their boss's boss or whoever that is, and you're not going to be there. And they're going to have to explain defensively what your analysis was and how to convey that to their boss's boss, right? So we want to be a trusted advisor in that sense, that we can help our sponsors do all these things. All right? Now, for the first second interactive portion, I'm going to ask you to take 30 seconds to think about who in your sponsor, manager, analyst world, who do you most want to be a trusted advisor for? Take 30 seconds. Zoomland, you do it too. Reflect. And then I'm going to ask you to share with your partner. So reflect for a second. I am indeed timing. All right, go ahead and share with your neighbor, or the new neighbor, hopefully, or if you came in late, we have neighbors now. Share with your neighbor who you might want to be a trusted advisor for. Zoomland, you can type it in the chat. Okay. I'm hearing names come up, so that's good. We have some idea in mind about who we want to be this trusted advisor for, not just give quick responses to, which is useful in a thing, but not always. Sometimes we want to be a trusted advisor. And you have an idea about who that might be for you. That's great. My claim is, and what we're going to kind of develop throughout the rest of this talk, is that really what you're being when you're a trusted advisor, when you're at that level, you're a teacher. You're a teacher. What does a teacher do? They build long-term relationships with the students throughout the course of this semester or course of year or whatever that is for them. And it's really communication in the sense that I was describing before. It's not the teacher goes to the front of the podium and they talk at you and they said so many right things, so they were good, right? Like, no, it's true communication. You ask the students, are they learning what you're presenting to them? Are they picking it up? Can they use that information later on? Are they struggling with it in some way? You, as a teacher, would help students ask the right questions, not just you're here to give good answers. Of course, we do give good answers, all SMEs and whatever our fields are, but that's not our only purpose, to be a repository of answers. It's to help students kind of develop into asking questions that they wouldn't have asked before that really get them to what they want to learn. And moreover, I would suggest that at the end of the semester, the goals for a teacher's students are to be able to independently reach defensible conclusions. When they leave your classroom for the last time, will they understand? Will they be able to use the knowledge that y'all talked about in that classroom over the course of the semester? If so, then yeah, that's a teacher and that's also a trusted advisor. All right. But we have ways of measuring how we improve in our teaching and how our students are doing. We just talk about grades, right? I'm going to use this template for a rubric. This is something related to what I've used in classes before. Maybe you have used something similar. Maybe you dislike it. I would argue that it's at least reasonable for most of us. All right, so if we want to help students earn an A, where are they even starting from? A student who earns a C, generally, we can say, okay, they can probably get most of the easy questions right. Great, yeah, I believe that for a student who earns a C. Can they get the complex questions right? Maybe with a lot of significant help from you. Maybe if you're sitting at their desk or something, they're going to be able to pick up on that. They start with this complex question. They say, I don't even know where to start. Teach, can you help me? And you say, yeah, we'll do this first. And they say, oh, great, I've done that. And now, now what's the next step? And maybe it goes like that. Okay. What about a student who earns a B? They can probably do a little bit of that, and they can probably do a little bit more. They could probably check that an answer that you give them is fairly correct, right? They could see, okay, yeah, I believe you presented this analysis to me. I believe in it. I think it makes sense. Or you present this analysis to me, and you divided by 0. You can't do that. They could be able to check that, right? And what can a student who earns an A do? This is the holy grail, right? We want our students to earn A's. They could answer complex questions independently of you, right? When they leave the course at the end of the semester, they know what's going on. They can communicate effectively about these complex nuances and material that you discussed, and they can take that with them to the next step, whatever they're doing, right? That's in education world, that's kind of where we're headed, right? So I'm gonna go back to the interactive time now. We're gonna do a think, pair, square, which is a teaching method. So we're gonna have 30 seconds to think independently about how you, in your past lives as a student, or if you've been a teacher, how you teach, how have you been helped move from earning a C to earning a B, or earning a B to earning an A, right? We're gonna take 30 seconds independently to think about that. Then you're gonna take 30 seconds to share with your partner. Then your partners, as pairs, will take 30 seconds to share with another partner pair. All right? Think, pair, square. I'm an educator. That's what I do. Okay? So 30 seconds, go. All right, that was short, but I'm seeing more eyes, so that means you're probably ready. Go ahead and share with a partner ideas about how you have gone from earning a C to earning a B, earning a B to earning an A. For those in Zoom land, share over the chat. All right, if your pair group hasn't already made a square with another group, go ahead and square up, share out. All right, I'm seeing conversations wrap up. Some people are still talking, but others are wrapping up, so we'll move forward. Yep. Hopefully, there have been some good ideas that you've either mentioned or heard from your square group about how you've individually or seen others go from earning C to earning B to earning an A. And to continue with the analogy, my argument is, well, we can probably use some of those same techniques for helping our sponsors go from earning a C to earning B to earning an A. Again, not all sponsors need this. Many sponsors get C's. C's get degrees, I believe is the phrase, right? It's not a bad thing. We don't need everyone to get an A. But if you want that trusted advisorship, if you want that relationship, yeah, maybe it's worth working towards helping them to move there. All right, so what do I mean by that? We want to help our sponsors navigate decisions in the same way that we help students kind of improve the types of questions that they're asking and be able to independently assess what's going on, right? Can your sponsor, the one that you have in mind from earlier, can they answer complex questions with your guidance? Probably so, right? That's why they're going to you. Can they check your work when you say, hey, here's my result, and they say, yeah, that makes sense, but what about this? Would they know the right questions to ask to probe about that, right? Maybe. Maybe we can push them in that direction. Can they discuss their ideas for solving complex questions with you? And maybe more importantly, without you being there, right? When their boss's boss asks them, do they always have to go back to you first? Or have you shared with them enough? Have your analysis tools provided them with enough information to be able to say, I kind of get it now. I know what they're going to say, or at least relatively. I can give a baseline answer first and then go back and work with you, with the SMEs, right? That's where I'm hoping that we push in that direction. Just a foot stomp. Sponsors are students who are sponsors, right? Students, if you're in the audience, you're paying a bunch of money to some teacher to help you do better at something. Yeah, you're a sponsor, right? Okay, so sponsors, they have to make, if your sponsor had to make a complex policy decision without you being there, could they do it? Would the tools that you provide them with, could they do that? And you really believe that they'll do it to the degree that you would expect, right? That's the question we want to get at. Okay, so all this has been very theoretical so far. Now I'm going to dive into a little bit of Streamlit and Python, and unfortunately, again, this will be more of just slideshow. We won't be actually using Python right now or Streamlit, but that's okay. What we're going to do is walk through an example of a Streamlit app. So Streamlit is a Python module. I understand that many folks in the audience either know or use Python, so we'll stick with Python. It's a Python module for presenting apps, especially dealing with data, right? Okay, useful thing. What we're going to do is walk through this particular Streamlit app called Arup Social Data and talk about how it has leveraged some teaching methodologies that we see in the research are helpful for students, right? First, we'll talk about how Arup Social has leveraged learning outcomes, just stating learning outcomes. Okay, what are learning outcomes? They are articulated desires that your students, for their knowledge and skills that they'll have at the end of the course, lesson, whatever that is for you, all right? That seems like a very straightforward thing to do, but how often in your class did every class period your teacher say, this is what you should know at the end of the class? Okay. And how often have you presented a tool to someone where nowhere in the tool does it say exactly what the tool is for, right? It's a useful thing to do that. In Streamlit, you can do that with a sidebar. That's collapsible, right? We're always worried about real estate and taking up too much space for analyses that don't matter, that the sponsor won't use. Okay, well, it's a collapsible bar. You can have the space to show what's going on with this app without taking up any space that you would have rather used somewhere else. And I'll mention again, these tools grow legs. They're not going to always be presented from the person that you presented it for, right? The person that's using it, the user, is not always in the briefing in which you present it. They could be new to the team. They could be a sponsor that changes hands. They could be some sponsor wants to show it off to their friend, right? Could be a lot of ways. And so we always want to be able to say, I know what this analysis is for. I know its limitations. I know its scope. I know exactly what's going on here. All right. Active learning. What is active learning? It's what it sounds like. It's instead of passively listening, it's focused on engaging and having discussions about the material, which is hopefully what you've been experiencing today. So how does Streamlit enable active learning? Well, you can upload and download your data sets to Streamlit itself, right? There's a button here that says show raw data. You can show or hide the raw data. Whoever the user is can download that raw data themselves and run the same analysis that you were at, and hopefully they get the same results. If they don't, that's something to discuss. But maybe more importantly, if they want to run a different analysis to compare with your analysis, well, they should be able to do that. They shouldn't have to go back to you and send that email chain out and start working again to navigate that process. It should be very simple in the tool, whatever you present to them, to have that data set to run this new analysis, right? Or rather, it could be. And I argue that we should aim in that direction. All right. Let's keep going. Transparent assignment design. What does that mean? That is saying anytime you assign a task to your users, students in this parlance, you explain what the task is and how you want them to complete the task. Okay, well, that's the same idea for this visualization, right? Hopefully, many of these, it's kind of small on the screen, but you can see that on the top arrow, this app explains how to use this particular visualization. It's a hover over. It's not that deep, but they explain it. They take the time and use that space to explain. Hover over and you'll see what these geographies, I think they call them concentrations, are used for. Okay, great. They also show what I think is more important and special here. They have two examples of the what of this app, right? Oftentimes when we're briefing, we are there, so we expect that we'll just tell you what the what is for. But again, these things grow legs. Here, there's two whats. The top one at the top arrow thing explaining how has a what that says the map shows all the equity geographies based on the criteria above. I had to cut off the criteria above, wouldn't fit. But the bottom one shows the more detailed, more on how these criteria are defined, how these concentrations are defined. And they actually give rigorous definitions of each concentration. Again, this is a collapsible bar, so it doesn't have to take up space. But this is what's useful for the sponsor, right? At the end of the day, they know the general idea, the sponsor, the analyst, whoever the new user is, the general idea of what's going on, how to use it. But they can also investigate further and deep dive as deep as they want to get to the real technical level of what you're showing in this app. All right, they can use this in a transparent way. All right. Now, cognitive load. What is cognitive load? That is a summary term to describe both the demands and limitations on working memory. All right. What does that mean? That means real estate really does matter. You can't put all the analysis on one screen and expect someone to be able to comprehend what's going on. That doesn't mean that you can't put all the analysis in there somewhere, right? Here's an example of the methodology that this app uses for their eviction analysis. Okay, written out in full detail, explaining what their limitations are, what the benefits are, what the data sets that they use. Great. Again, in a collapsible menu. If they want to hide it, they can. But the idea is that some new user probably gets the idea of what's going on and probably doesn't always need to look back at the exact methodology that's being used, but they can in a very simple way if you build this tool using Streamlit and showing these methodologies. All right. So all of these teaching preferences, I would say, they research backed. They show that we can improve grades for students, and I argue that if the analogy holds between students and trusted advisorship, then we can really improve how our sponsors understand and interpret our analyses through these decision tools. All right. Last slide, unless you want to look at more details of the definitions. Integrating what we know about teaching into these decision tools can help advise sponsors beyond just the interaction with the tool, outside of the scope of the actual tool. All right, and that is all. Any questions?
All right, we've got time for a few questions. We're also
Yes.
What?
Great presentation, really intuitive, right? Slightly different viewpoint, right? So I'll put myself in the sponsor's shoes, right? I very much want my trusted advisor to understand my intent and my perspective, right? So how can I was going to say the student, if you will, right, kind of meet me where I'm at, right? But maybe it should really be a two-way sort of thing. So any commentary on that? How do we meet each other, let's say, in the middle, so that the intent is clearly conveyed and understood across by all parties?
Yes. I think I understand that question. My take on that is, yes, exactly. It's a two-way street, and communication has to happen on both sides. Communication, I would argue by definition, is two people communicating. So it can't just be one person anyway. So yes, the sponsor has to communicate their ideas about what their desired interpretation of what their statements are, and over time, that long-term relationship, it starts to build some kind of unspoken communication skills, such as when I say this, I really mean X, Y, and Z. When I give you a one-sentence answer, I'm not actually mad at you, and I don't actually dislike your research, but I'm in a tight bind. I need to leave. Those sorts of things communication skills really do help involve or develop understanding what the sponsor needs from you. Does that answer the question?
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? One over here.
How do you address the different cultures in the different groups or environments or universities, international? How is that going to be addressed?
Yeah, I think you're asking if different cultures between you and your sponsor. Is that what you're asking?
Well, yes, but also different cultures from one country to another. If you take this tool and you try to apply it to another university in England or university in Japan, or I'm just using that as an example, but
sure.
Different cultures.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So I'll answer my first interpretation of the question first. There will be different cultures, and there will be different. So all of this is built around the idea that the sponsor has the time and has the technical desire to want to deep dive into this. Sometimes that doesn't exist. Sometimes that's not what you're building. So when you are in the situation that someone is wanting to engage with you on that level, it's usually the cultural differences are surpassable, right? When there's a desire to engage with you and get to that level of understanding from that material, even though it extends beyond what your original expectation of that reach would be, you're putting a lot of trust on the person who's receiving it, having cross cultures, to kind of interrogate the app that they receive. But we're under the assumption that they want to do that they want to interrogate this app. And so we're at the point of aiming towards meeting in the middle. Of course, there will always be, you said the wrong word at this wrong time. And I have no claim that that's ever going to be a solvable problem. But I will claim that under the assumptions that we're in, they're aiming, both the sponsor, whoever the end user is, and you, they're aiming for the same point. And that's a great place to start from.
All right, and with that, we are out of time. So let's thank our speaker again.